Yeah, we'll ask you where you're from.
So they didn't even know that India and Pakistan were the same country.
Now, where you really from?
In this film, the son explores all of those emotions which the father is alien to, even though he's living in a foreign land.
The question seems simple, but the answer's kind of long.
Hi everyone, this is Silas Ram, AsianCultureVulture.com. Welcome. I'm thrilled. I'm very honoured to be having Alyy Khan and Sudha Bhuchar. They are in the film Mogul Mowgli, which stars Riz Ahmed and is directed by Bassam Tariq.
But where my genes are from, people don't really MC it now.
This film screens at the London 64th BFI London Film Festival soon, and also goes on general release in the UK and Ireland from October 30th. Welcome, Alyy and Sudha. How are you doing?
Good, thank you, Silas.
Good.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Excellent. And Alyy, you're in Karachi and Sudha, you're in London. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Wimbledon, yes.
Great. So you two played the couple and the mum and dad of the Riz Ahmed character, who's called Zed, who's a rapper, and he's struck down by a very debilitating illness, and he has to come back home. I think he's been in New York, in the US on tour, and he comes back home to London and to you two. Can you explain how you became part of the project and what your initial reaction was to the script?
Shall I go first?
Yes, go first.
Go for it, Sudha.
Yes, for me, the script, I mean, what was really great is, you know, Nasra, my character, the mother, you know, a lot of her stuff was in Urdu, which I really liked. And then having met Bassam, you know, who's made documentaries before, you know, he was very keen for the process to be quite collaborative, which was, you know, really nice. And I think for me, on a very personal level, I've got sons. One of my sons had actually suffered a very, you know, life-threatening autoimmune illness. So I sort of connected to it quite personally as well.
Right. Alyy?
To me, obviously, the big thing about it being a quintessential actor was what the script brought along with it. So I was really keen to work with and collaborate with Riz and with Bassam, both of whom I'm a big fan of, right?
Right.
So for me, that was like a bit of a fan moment, and I thought, you know, I really want to do this project. Once having started doing it, because so much of the film was actually in their minds and such a personal journey for them, it took on a new dimension to try and discover our roles in it, not just as husband and wife for me and Sudha, but also as father and son. And like Sudha, I have children as well. I have a son as well, you know, different ages. So it was quite a cathartic process, all in all.
Have you worked with Riz before? Do you know him well, or did you learn a lot in the process of being in this film?
I mean, I have never worked with Riz before, but have met him, you know, and very much admired him. And, you know, we've sort of met when I was running Tamasha Theatre. Of course, we tried to get him to be in our plays, but, you know, his career sort of took off very quickly. I think what was lovely, I mean, it was lovely to work with Alyy, you know, to work in language.
Have you worked with Alyy before?
I haven't, no. And Urdu is not my first language. So, you know, although I am married to a Pakistani, so I really appreciated Alyy for his guidance as well in terms of, you know, he'd always tell me off about you knew if you got a compliment from Alyy that you were on the right path. And I think, you know, we improvised a lot, didn't we, Alyy, which was lovely. You know, not all of it's made it there, but I think the fact that we did that meant that we sort of created a kind of family dynamic for ourselves, you know, which was really nice.
So Alyy, how did you approach the father character? I mean, there's a lot of tension between the father and the son, and there's a lot of trauma as well for the father character.
I think what was more important, Silas, was trying to understand the subtext and to try and understand the thought behind the writing. That itself was a challenge as an actor.
Right.
As a human being, I've grown up in the subcontinent. I may have had race issues, Hindu, Muslim, not really nation issues, India, Pakistan.
Right.
But there was never a dichotomy in one's growing up years about one's ethnicity or the color.
Right.
Or the placement. In this film, the son explores all of those emotions which the father is alien to, even though he's living in a foreign land. But his grounding and his rooting is unshakable, right? So that was where the challenge came in. That is this man actually now succumbing to the ways of the world, or is he still stuck in his own kind of cocoon while his son is in a different, and hence that kind of tension between them.
I mean,
so
I
that
think
was really quite interesting.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I think there's sort of obviously the context of UK where, you know, the children are witnessing the fragility of their parents, you know. So there is that sort of intergenerational trauma that perhaps, which is played out in UK, you know, very much so, because you're seeing your parents fall and stumble, hold on, you know, the father's, you know, Zed sees as the kind of detritus of his failures are all around him, you know, the cassettes and all the ventures that he started, and the mother, you know, still works in a grocery shop, and you know what they're trying to hold on to, he's trying to break away from, but then he finds himself having to come back home and face his own fragility, you know, which gives the whole thing a knot, I think.
I mean, do you think there's some very powerful observations on masculinity in the film? I think there are, but I'd like to hear it from you as the mother character, and being a woman, obviously you have a take. And I think it's...
I think it is exploring the fragility of masculinity as well, and trying to keep up a front, you know. I mean, Riz talks about, you know, as an artist as well, as a British Asian artist, you're trying to break away, but you're taking your voice with you. You're trying to make something new out of all the heritage that you have. You also want to leave the baggage behind, but it's all part of the, you know, thing that you carry. So I could relate to that as well as, you know, as an artist trying to make my way here.
Yeah, I mean, Alyy, did you find it had some insight into masculinity and the whole father role, you know, in life more generally? Did you take something away from playing this part?
As the father in the film, with Zed's character, the masculinity issue is pretty deep rooted to his culture and tradition. And again, that is black and white, and obviously doesn't need to be explained. You know.
Sure. Can I ask also, as artists, you've been working, you're very well established, and this film says a lot about artistic legacy as well. So I'd really like to hear you both talk about that, and whether in a personal context, how it might relate to your own personal context. What do you feel your legacy should be, could be, want to be?
Wow. Sudha, yours.
I know it's a big question, but I think it's staring us in the face.
I mean, I think certainly, again, you know, my context is very different from Alyy. You know, being a British Asian artist in this country, you know, I found myself being called a pioneer, you know, an inadvertent pioneer, how I talk about it, you know, then running Tamasha Theatre Company, where not only you're making your own work, but you're commissioning, you're trying to bring voices through. And yes, you know, in all these discussions about diversity, everyone keeps saying, and now we're saying, oh, we're in this moment, which we've never experienced before, you know, but there's a danger of sort of erasure, you know, of so much. I mean, I've been working for 35 years, you know, and a lot of moments I can say I've been there before, you know, been there, done it, worn the T-shirt. And I want to feel as though there is this kind of momentum now, which is all about honoring the past, seeing what came before, what's coming through, you know, younger people having more opportunities, more intergenerational stories, having women, people of color, you know, people of my age in central sort of narratives, you know, one hopes for all that.
And Alyy, yourself, well, I mean, you've been in a lot of productions all over the world. Have you got to that stage where you're very selective and you're looking at things that will really kind of bring out the very best in you? I mean, you're a fantastic actor, you know, and I think you really shine in this.
Alyys, so before you run out of words and, you know, try too hard, let me save you. Life starts off quintessentially in my part of the world as a protector and provider.
Right.
If you decide to dive into the big bad world of acting, 9 times out of 10, you got to think of survival. So your career, however idealistic you wish it to be, is also about putting food on the table.
Sure, right.
Once you pass through the initial hurdles and you become a little finer in your craft, so to speak, you may have the privilege of choosing your path.
Right.
And I say again, you may have the privilege, depending on which part of the world you've been living in and what that volume of work has been, right?
Sure.
So for a British Asian artist, it's different from an Asian artist living here. It's different.
Absolutely. Sure.
I never cheat with my work.
Right.
And I never shortchange my work. And if the Lord chooses to give me sustenance from this, then I bow my head in gratitude and I try and give my best to every gig I do. On a personal note, I would only like my kids to look at my body of work and say that whatever he did with a modicum of honesty.
Yeah, for me, I mean, there are some things that I've written which are totally inspired by my children. You know?
Sure.
One of them is a play called Child of the Divide.
Indeed.
You know, which has had a huge life and it carries on and giving. And then recently I did a piece called Evening Conversations, which is literally capturing my conversations with my sons. And that's an evolving piece. So I think my kids know that when I write things that are actually a gift to them, I mean, they'll always joke and say, well, you're just stealing our words. You couldn't do this without them, which is actually true as well.
I think that segues into my final question, and it's another kind of big question, but I think you're both really uniquely placed in some ways to talk about this, especially as you brought up the Child of the Divide and Partition. For this generation of British Asians growing up, we're quite divorced from the actual partition and the experiences, but obviously in this film it's a major theme.
I'm in a unique position of having lived in India, Pakistan and Britain.
Absolutely.
Right? And having lived for sustained periods of time to understand people's unbiased emotions and vibes about each other. And really, if there is any conversation ever about India, Pakistan, it's about people here talking about their roots and how they've still got family, or hum Delhi ke hain, or we've come from Ajmer, and similarly people, they don't talk about the partition process, or the breaking off, or the political ambiguity that surrounded. You see what I'm trying to say? And similarly, if there is a divorce of placement, it would be for the younger generation who have actually moved from Pakistan or India post-partition to the West.
Absolutely.
Be it Canada or Britain, or from Africa to Britain.
I think what's important is that shared heritage. Don't you think, Sudha, that there is?
Yes, I think it is more. I mean, for me, when I wrote Child of the Divide, you know, I mean, it was for my children who were very young, because, you know, they're of mixed heritage. So they were like, you know, what are we, you know? And then I found out, you know, the kids in primary school that they went to, they didn't even know that India and Pakistan were the same country.
And Alyy, you're involved in a BBC production right now. You're doing something.
I'm doing something for Netflix, BBC, something really exciting called The Serpent.
Right.
Which is like a crime thriller based on a true life story set in the 70s. So yeah, that should be fun.
Okay, great. And Sudha?
Well, I've been doing this sort of year-long residency in Luton around the theme of touch. Okay. So there's a scientific study. In fact, all the results are coming out on Radio 4 this week. And my piece, Touchstone Tales, there's a second installment of new stories written by me. And I also play one of the monologues, and that's on October the 15th. You can go to www.revoluton.com.
Great.
It's a free event on Zoom. So please do register.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much. I hope others will enjoy Mogul Mowgli like I did and get to see you both on the big screen as Zed's mum and dad. Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.